morning. Welcome back to Pages into the Past. So today we're working on the dress for the Spencer that I made. Now the Spencer I made was a Hamilton jacket, and you've seen it in my previous videos. Today I'm going to work on the underdress, and what I've decided to do is use the black snail pattern 0119 for the underdress. The reason that I've chosen this one is because it's a little bit fuller in the bust line and in the waistline. And because I have a tummy, I kind of figure that's the best way to kind of camouflage rather than a flat front. So what I've done so far is I printed out all of my patterns and my directions, and I print in black and white just because it's less expensive. I don't need color for what I'm doing. I'm cutting out the largest size anyhow, so the pattern comes with different lines for different sizes. And you can see how it goes solid and different dashes and dots. And so the pieces that I don't need are already in a plastic file. You can see back here what I've done to put this together is I've trimmed with my paper cutter, taped my pieces together, got them all sorted out. And what I'll be doing is going to be this version here. I won't be doing the jacket part of it because I already have a Spencer, so I'm not really worried about that. Don't need a sleeveless one. What I'll do is I have to go through and see what the measurement is in length. Because I'm 5'9" and I have a belly, I want to make sure that the length is long enough in the front to skim the top of my shoes when I'm wearing it. In this pile over here, that is my gatherings for costume college. Getting my Regency corset there, putting it on and taking measurements. And then I'm going to do a mock-up out of that muslin I found. Make myself a mock-up of just the top part so that I can get any fitting issues. Because my thought is that I might have to add a few extra inches on the front to gather it, but until I make my mock-up, I won't know. All right, you can see first mock-up, not exactly well-fitting and not long enough here. So you can see I wrote a note telling myself that I needed to probably extend this part 3 inches, and back here taper it to this point here, so that it tapers correctly here. The other thing that I did is I added 4 inches to the front, thinking that I could get a little bit more gather up front, but I'm not quite sure that that is going to pull this in, because it seems to make it go higher. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out to the pattern measurements. I'll take those 8 inches out, and then I'll add the extension here, try it back on, and see how that fits. And yeah, I have the wrong chemise on because apparently I don't have a short sleeve chemise other than my Victorian underwear one. So I'll have to I'll add that to my list of things to do for costume college. Because I think once I take that out and tighten it, what it'll do is it'll pull that over just a little bit so that it stays a little bit better. And then what I might do, I might stitch up the back and slide it on without the front being tied so that I can get closer to a more proper fit. All right, so here is the additional 3 inches, which looks like it will gather quite nicely in. I also extended the back by about 1.5 inches, which to me now looks like it fits much better. I can pull this in, and it should, with gathers here, it looks much better. All right, so quite happy with the way that one turned out. So now I'm going to take those changes, transfer them to from my pattern to my fabric, and tomorrow, because well, I might get some of it today, yeah, get it started, and probably in the next day or so, work-wise, I should have this done. All right, so now on to the work. Hello everybody once again. Well, as you can see, we started working on the actual gown, and I put it on my dress form, and then you can see that I pulled a rookie move. When I turned it, I forgot, still have to add sleeves, and I had stitched the seam right here. And so I'm going to have to turn it back out, take the stitching out here, but I thought I'd throw it on my dress form real quick to kind of just give you an idea. This particular outfit directions for this black snail pattern calls for a lot of hand sewing. And you all know I am not a fan of hand sewing. So what I did is I took the shell and the lining and I sewed them together, with the exception of the front bodice piece, because that's a single layer. Everything else was 2 layers, and so I just enclosed my seams here so that I can have just have all the insides tucked to the inside and not visible. They have you do the skirts with French seams, and so figured this was hiding this seam here, hiding the raw edges, and because the front is just a single layer and everything gathers in here, that'll be fairly easy to do. So now I have to go get my seam ripper and tear out the armholes because I haven't added sleeves yet, and this is not sleeveless. So we'll see you soon. We're working on the sleeve right now, and it's got this little pleat in the sleeve, and then you attach the sleeve to the cuff to the outside, and then you're going to turn it to the inside and slip stitch it, and then you're going to gather your sleeve cap to put in the top. I'm going to get those 2 sleeves done. So I am working on my French seams. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do my French seams, and then I'm going to do the 2-inch hem at the bottom, and then I will level it to the waistband, because the waistband has a dip, and in order to get over my belly, it's longer. So I will be playing with that as soon as I get the hem done. I figure the hem will keep it the same length all the way around, and I won't have to cut anything from there, because I also want to do a decorative trim along that hemline. Hey everybody, well, I'm back to sewing, and so right now what I'm working on is the skirt, and what I've decided to do was start with a 2-inch hem at the bottom. So I went ahead and I folded that, ironed it, and then I added this cute little ribbon to the inside, just to enclose that raw edge without making it super bulky, like by rolling it. So on the outside edge, see the stitching line here. So it's a pretty good color match. Because I added extra length to the front and back, when I cut out the fabric, I had added, I think it was 4 inches to each piece, and the back piece was much longer than the front, and all 4 of those inches seem to have ended up at the waist. This is center back here. I went over to the seam, and then I angle cut, blended in. That's what it looks like with the center back here. This is where it comes into the curve of the back shoulder seam, or the back seam, the side back, and then this is the side seam. So I just cut this because it did come all the way out here, and it was quite extensive there. So this way I can get it blended and still keep a train in the back. I was going to just gather everything, and I was trying to figure out how I was going to attach the bottom piece to the top piece as both pieces need to be gathered, and picked up my directions, and it said, hey, there's a waistband here. And I'm like, oh yeah, the waistband. So I can gather the bottom to the bottom of the waistband and the top to the top, and therefore you have an edge that will be able, you can put a string in there to tighten it if needed. Yep, that's what this pattern does. They have it tie it off in the center. That makes me super excited because I was a little worried about how I was going to put these pieces together. Now I have a plan. Helps to pick up the directions, especially I've been gone for the last 3 weeks on vacation with my granddaughter and I haven't done any sewing, so helps to remember. So when I started making this outfit, I don't remember if I told you that these patterns, the black snail patterns, 90% of everything that I've read look like she does everything hand sewn. I hate hand sewing. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that hand sewing is the nemesis and the doer of evil, and I just can't. I hate hand sewing. I do admit that certain things have to be hand sewn because they just have to be. But to make a whole outfit to wear and hand sewing it is just not something that I am mentally able to do at this time. Don't know that I'll ever do it, but at this point in time, it's not happening. Right now, we are working on the waistband, and it says to take the waistband and attach it. Now, it says to gather the front piece, spread evenly, make flat felt seams, all this lovely stuff. And then you take the waistband lining and you put it over the top of the skirt that you've gathered and the top that you've gathered into the waistband. Being that I don't really like hand sewing, my thought is that I'm going to take the waistband that I've already gathered into the skirt here. This is the skirt. Here's the waistband. I'm going to sandwich the other waistband over the top so that it takes in the seam, so that it's sandwiched, and then also this original waistband to the bodice, and then the only hand sewing I'm going to have to do is when I turn this and stitch that closed, because there's also a drawstring in the middle. That's the rest of the project, or my project I hope to complete by the end of the day, which is possible to do. But if I only get part of it done, then hey, that's good for me, because no sense pushing. Of course, I feel like I have to push a little bit because in about 1 month is costume college. And this is the first year in many years, this will be the 10th time I've attended, or 11th, that I am not completely done sewing a month before costume college. Because, I went on 2 vacations this year, 9 weeks with my husband and 3 weeks with the granddaughter. And I feel like I'm a little behind. I gotta work on this. I'm really glad that it's as far along as it is because it's minimal work left to do. Once I get the skirt attached, hand sewing the waistband to the bodice, and then having to do the back closure, and then all I have left to do is decorate the bottom of the skirt. I should hopefully have this done before the weekend, if not sooner. Oh, and by the way, did I show you that? These are the little badge ribbons I'm going to hand out at costume college. So if you're watching this and we're at costume college together, because I believe this video will come out the week before costume college or the week of, if you want one, come find me. I'm going to have a whole bag full. Okay, so I got the skirt pieces together. When I fold them together, this is the bottom, this is the top. There's too much fabric here, so I'm going to trim this down so that when this piece gets folded over, it's not going to be quite so bulky. I might end up trimming down some of the ruffles as well, just for a little bit smoother line, because there's quite a bit of gathers here. Trim it down so that when I turn this, it'll be nice and flat. This is the front, the outside. Don't want too much bulk there. So that's where the step is now, is to trim that, and then I will pin it and I'll hand stitch that down. Before I stitch it down, I'll put a cord in there so that it's easier to thread. Hey everybody, I am sending you this recording from my phone because apparently I left my camera on all night and exhausted my battery. But this here is the first full fitting of my gown. It touches the floor, so I think I'm gonna have to I'll start off with one 1-inch pleat at the bottom, figure out chemise, because in the back Here's the back. It ties closed. Shirt that I have underneath is just a tank top, so I'll definitely have to change that out. You can see the back looks really good. It's got a nice little drape going to it. So yeah. All right, guys. Ta-da! This is not completed. I still have to add some at the bottom, some decoration, but I threw this on real quick and ta-da! Okay, everybody, she's done. Here's the whole dress. You can see, and I've got my little petticoat underneath, and yeah. So now what I'll do is I'll put the whole outfit on, and you can see that. Okie doke, here it is. That's the whole outfit, the whole enchilada. Ta-da! I even made myself a little handbag. That way I can keep all my stuff together. So this is me signing out. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, just keep sewing.